In this lecture, we're going to be talking about complex power flow. So when we talk about complex power flow, what we mean is the flow of apparent, real, or reactive power through a transmission line or a distribution feeder or some type of connection between two sources. So let's take a look at the circuit here that I've drawn on the top left, where we have two voltage sources, V1 and V2, that are connected through a transmission line. So in this example, V1 could be a generator on one city, V2 could be a generator on another city, and R plus JX, this impedance over here represents the transmission line that connects both generators. And so what we want to do is we want to derive an equation that's going to tell us how apparent power, real power, and reactive power flows from one source to the other. And so let's go ahead and define a couple of things. We're going to say that the impedance Z is going to be equal to these two terms over here, R and JX. So that's going to be R plus JX. And then we're going to write that in polar form. So we're going to say that that's going to be equal to the magnitude of Z at an angle gamma. And then we're also going to say that V1, so source V1 is going to be equal to the magnitude of V1 at an angle of delta 1. And then likewise V2 is going to be equal to its magnitude, so magnitude of V2 at an angle delta 2. And so first what we need to do is we need to derive an equation for the current flow from one source to the other. So I've gone ahead and defined the direction of current flow as flowing from source 1 to source 2. So I sub 1, 2 here flows from V1 to V2. So it flows in this direction. So I know that from circuit analysis, I can write down the equation for I12 as the voltage difference between the two sides over the impedance that separates them. So this is, in other words, going to be equal to V1 minus V2 over Z. And so now I can go ahead and plug in the equations for V1, V2, and Z. So I'm going to say that this is going to be equal to V1 absolute value at an angle of delta 1 minus absolute value of V2 at an angle of delta 2 over absolute value of Z at an angle of gamma. And so now I'm going to go ahead and distribute the terms. So I'm going to separate V1 and V2. So I get that this is going to be equal to V1 delta 1 over Z at an angle of gamma. And then minus V2 delta 2 over Z at an angle of gamma. And so I can take one more step here. I can say then that I know that the magnitudes are going to be V1 over Z1, and then I can combine these two angles. So remember that for phasors, when you're dividing one phasor by another, you're going to get the angle of the phasor on the numerator minus the angle of the phasor on the denominator. So then this is going to become V1 over Z magnitudes and angle of delta 1 minus gamma. And then likewise for the V2 term, so V2 phasor absolute value over Z at an angle of delta 2 minus gamma. And so now I have an expression for I12 in terms of V1 and Z and delta 1, delta 2, and gamma. And so remember that the apparent power S is going to be equal to the voltage times the current conjugate. And so if I go ahead and plug in the terms that I have for this, I'm going to get that S12. And so I'm going to call it the apparent power that's being sent by the source 1. So this is also normally called the sending end power, meaning if the current flows from source 1 to source 2, source 1 is the sending end and source 2 is the receiving end. So S12 is the sending end apparent power. So therefore I gotta use the voltage of V1. So using this expression, I'm going to get V1, which is absolute value of V1 at an angle of delta 1. And then that times I12. So I'm going to plug in I12 over here, which is this entire expression over here. So that's going to become absolute value of V1 over absolute value of Z at an angle of delta 1 minus gamma minus absolute value of V2 over absolute value of Z at an angle of delta 2 minus gamma. And now I'm going to go ahead and distribute the terms, so I get V1 times V1 squared over this. So I'm going to get V1 absolute value squared over the absolute value of Z, and then I can add up the angles, because again, remember that when you're multiplying two phasors, the angle is going to be the addition of the two angles. And actually, I just noticed here that this term I plugged in I12, but that needs to be the conjugate of that. So instead of having to plug in this term over here, I should have plugged in the conjugate, meaning I got to take the opposite of the angles for these two terms. So this delta 1 should have been a negative delta 1, and this should have been a positive gamma. And then likewise here, this should have been a negative delta 2, and this should have been a positive gamma. And so now I get V1 times V1, so V1 squared over the absolute value of the impedance, and then I can add up this angle with this angle. So I see that I have delta 1 over here and minus delta 1 over here. So these two terms are going to cancel out, and so I would get this at an angle of gamma, because again, delta 1 cancels out, and then I get minus, so this term times this term, so I get minus V1 absolute value, V2 absolute value over the impedance, Z, and then again, I add up the two angles, so I'm going to get delta 1 minus delta 2 plus gamma. So I'm going to say, and I'm actually going to rearrange it, I'm going to say gamma first, and then plus delta 1 minus delta 2. So this right here is the expression for the ascending and apparent power, S sub 1, 2. Now let's go ahead and do one more thing. We know that S is equal to P plus JQ. And we know that P, if we take the terms in the apparent power and we multiply that times cosine, that's going to give us P. Because that would give us the real part of the apparent power, and then we can do sine for Q, which is going to give us the imaginary part of the apparent power. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say that P, I'm going to take this times cosine of gamma, and then this times cosine of this whole thing. So the real power, P, is going to be equal to this term over here. So again, this is just this times the cosine of gamma, so the cosine of this angle, and then minus V1, V2 over the absolute value of Z times the cosine of gamma plus delta 1 minus delta 2. And then likewise, I can get the reactive power Q, but now to get the imaginary part of the apparent power, I'm going to multiply times sine. So I'm going to get the same terms, but now in terms of sine. So I would get absolute value of V1 squared over Z times the sine of gamma minus V1 absolute value, V2 absolute value over the impedance, absolute value of the impedance times the sine of this whole term, so gamma plus delta 1 minus delta 2. So I know this is starting to get a little bit complicated, but it's important that we derive the equations for the real power and the reactive power for a power flow, because that's going to tell us how power flows through transmission lines in a power system. And now, speaking of transmission lines, typically for a transmission line, the resistance is much smaller than the reactance. So we can say that if Z, which again is a phasor, composed of a real part and an imaginary part, is almost equal to just the reactive part, so Jx, or in other words, the value of the reactance at an angle of 90 degrees. So this 90 degrees comes from the fact that it's the imaginary part of that. Then we can simplify a little bit these equations. So again, all I did here was I made an assumption that the resistance here is negligible with respect to, or rather compared to, the reactance. So I can say that the impedance Z is almost purely reactive. And so if that's the case, notice that this angle right here is 90, but again, this angle is gamma, because in this equation over here we said that the impedance Z is equal to its magnitude at an angle of gamma. So basically we're saying that gamma, let me just go ahead and write it down. We're saying that gamma is almost 90 degrees. And so if we make that assumption, we can simplify this a little bit, because we know that the cosine of 90 degrees is 0. So this term goes away. And we know that the sine of gamma, or rather the sine of 90 degrees, is 1. So this term right here equals 1. So now from there we can say, I'm just going to write it down over here, that P is going to be equal to V1, V2, sine of delta 1 minus delta 2 over x. And so what I did here is I took the fact that I have here minus cosine, and then I'm plugging in 90 degrees for here. So minus cosine of 90 degrees is equal to sine, or is equivalent to sine. So I can then take just this magnitude and convert this minus cosine of 90 degrees to sine, and just use the angles delta 1 and delta 2. So this equation tells us the real power flow through a transmission line, assuming that the resistance of that transmission line is negligible with comparison to its reactance. Now for the reactive power Q, we can do something similar. We see here that sine of 90 degrees equals 1. So we're going to get this term by itself. So I'm going to get absolute value of V1 squared over x, because again, remember that I'm saying that Z is basically just x minus this term over here. And so I can do something similar here as to what we did for the real power. I can say that minus sine of 90 degrees is equal to minus cosine, and then I take the gamma out. So I can say then that this is minus V1 absolute value, V2 absolute value over x times the cosine of delta 1 minus delta 2. So this then is the expression for the reactive power flow through a transmission line. Again, this is all assuming that the resistance is negligible with respect to the reactance. Now, a couple of things that I want to mention here is that notice that for the real power flow, which is really what we're concerned about in real life, the angles delta 1 and delta 2 are really what dictate what the magnitude of that real power is. In other words, the difference between delta 1 and delta 2 has a bigger impact on the real power magnitude than the magnitudes of the voltage sources do. And so what's done in real applications is that this angle is changed to control the power that flows through a transmission line rather than the magnitudes. So magnitudes are usually not changed. They're operated at whatever the nominal voltage is. So if this source or this generator, let's say, is rated at 13.8 kV and this generator is rated at 13.8 kV, this is typically not changed. That's typically kept at whatever its nominal voltage is, but rather we can change the angles between them to control the real power flow. And now we can make also one more observation, and it is that the maximum power flow, P max, is going to occur when delta 1 minus delta 2 is equal to 90 degrees. Because if this is 90 degrees, then sine of 90 degrees is equal to 1, which means that that's the maximum possible value for the real power. So we can say P max then is going to occur when V1, or rather it's going to be equal to this, and it's going to occur when, I'm running out of space, but I'm going to say over here, that occurs when delta 1 minus delta 2 is equal to 90 degrees. And this term also, delta 1 and delta 2, or rather delta 1 minus delta 2, is typically referred to as the load angle and is abbreviated just delta. So again, a couple of observations here. The angles between the two sources is really what controls the real power flow through a transmission line, and you can get the maximum power flow when that angle is 90 degrees, and the magnitudes of the voltages are usually kept at their nominal values, and they're not used to control the real power flow.